I can't believe how much time has passed. Game of Thrones Lannister helmet was March 2016. That's why I always date my envelopes, and then I just keep them in a filing cabinet so I can go back to them at any time. I can find them. They're all labeled by like helmet or greaves or whatever type of armor that I'm building. I cannot believe that it has been that long since I built that Lannister helmet. It feels like just yesterday. Here we are, there it is, helmet liner piece. It's gonna work pretty well. I'm gonna make a new pattern. That's why I keep all these patterns like this. Match the fold up at the front, and then the pattern at the back has got to overlap slightly because of the seam allowance, so I'm going to join it there at the back. So now with this piece, I'm going to flip it over on the fold. I'm going to fold the fabric, and then I'm going to need to cut 2 of them, so I've also need to get enough length. So I need about 58 inches or 60-inch fabric wide and 10 inches to be safe. We'll do it across. So 10 inches by 60 inches to make this piece. Now, of course, this is big, but because it's squishy, it's going to squish up inside the seams once I stitch this. So the very first thing I'm going to do is make this into a circle around the head. So take one of the pieces, going to give it a quick stitch. All right, so now it's a round liner, and do that to the other piece. Flip one inside out, and that's going to be the good side. So I want right sides together, seams together. I'll just fold that out. You can see why I leave such a big seam allowance, because it doesn't matter, it's inside, it just adds to the padding. We're trying to make a medieval helmet liner, so it makes it really easy to stitch and just adds to the thickness. And now we just have to get the padding and stuff it in there. Okay, so I shoved all the padding up inside. Now is a good time to test it, make sure it all works inside the helmet. Looks like it's gonna be pretty good. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run some just vertical stitches. So if that sits in the crown, some vertical stitches right there. And then I'm gonna top stitch straight up each of these. Now remember, this is top stitching, so you want it to be somewhat pretty. Take your time with this, and also know that we're going to turn this up, so don't stitch all the way down. But that's basically what the top stitch looks like. So a little seam there, and I've got enough that I can fold this up inside. It doesn't need much, but it needs to be able to fold up inside and then top stitch. So I'm going to do that all the way around. Alright, that liner is looking pretty good, but now before I continue it, I want to cut out the pattern for the skirt, and in order to do that, I have to have the chain done. I'm going to push that out of the way. I hate to do this to a piece. This is like a belly piece for a halberd. I just haven't had time to get the skirt made for this helmet, so I'm basically going to take 2 chunks out of this for the 2 helmets. So I always use modified pliers. They have no teeth on them. These are titanium rings, so they are incredibly hard. Mailing is pretty easy, but basically we're taking out all the joining rows in a straight line. I'm going to open up these rings quite wide as I take them out, because I'm going to reuse them to attach this skirt to the helmet. And if you've ever done maille, it can be visually excruciating to look at. But if you've been doing it as many years as I have, you start to get a feel for what to look for in the patterns. You are always taking out the right ring. But basically what we want to do is go up in a straight line. only taking out rings in the joining rows. Out perfectly. This center ring should be grabbing the 33rd ring on this side. So this is ring 33 from this side and this is ring 33 from this side. That's a really good double check because it assures me that I haven't missed any. That's it. Half of the skirt attached. Always want this to have a little bit of tension, which is why I want to make sure this first row is actually affixed by 2 rings. You can see right now it's only actually on 1 ring, so that's why this very last joining ring just goes through 1. I found that that gives the most finished look, so it's actually tapering down and then going straight. Alright, so throw the liner in there and then try it on. Oh yeah! Always great to have something on for the first time. I've been growing my beard out especially for this little project just because it is so great. When I get that liner installed inside, I'm gonna just tighten it up a little bit so that it isn't sitting all the way down on top of my head like that, but actually stands up a little bit. Yeah, I'm feeling like a Viking now! It's always great to try something on for the first time. Anyways, pretty excited. I guess the next step is fabric. Got this piece of linen, and I think it's gonna look pretty spectacular behind there. So we will get this piece cut out and then stitch it on. So I've got a piece of linen. I'm gonna layer it up, 3, 4 layers, fold it in half, and 8 layers. Cut out this little shape that I just drew. It's about 4 1/4 inches at the top. It's about 8 1/2 inches at the bottom. Just making a little cone. We're gonna stitch it together. Of course, I don't have the iron set up, and this is linen, so I am literally just doing a quick finger press. I want that seam to be a little bit flat on the inside, and the linen's nice that way. It takes a press really easily. Flip it inside out, right side's out. Grab the top of the helmet liner, center back seam, all the seams together. So I'm making a quick adjustment because it's flaring out too much. So I've pinned the inside and I'm just going to stitch this up to increase the curve. So the next step is to punch some holes so I can make a little loop at the top so I can tension this and adjust the height of the helmet. So really simply, just going to punch 2 holes in each of these lobes. That nice sharp point on there, and I just twist it a little bit as I go through the hole, and that helps it go through. If you need, you can use an awl if you're getting resistance from the padding inside. simple as that is. And I'll leave it long for now, then I'll trim it off. So the next step is going to be punching these holes in the liner so that I can lace it on. So the idea with this is I want the lace to come through the material. I'm just going to line it up and punch a hole right there. And then I use this dull awl just to make sure I've got a decent hole. Then I go along to the next hole and I go in right there. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to lace, so I've got these lacing needles, and basically you can feed your leather thong into the threaded portion of the needle, and it makes it a little bit easier to get this through. Handy little tool. I'll leave a link down in the description below. When I get to the very end, I'm going to tie it off on the inside. I'm just going to tie a bow in there. Oh, trim off the other end. Then just tuck all of that up inside. That's on the side of the head, so it should have plenty of room there. And that's it. That's the liner laced in. So, should be good to go. We can try it on. All right, that is looking pretty amazing. Now, of course, I'm going to put some hand stitches in the front, just along this edge, and on the bottom and the back, I'm going to attach a wrapped piece of leather. It's going to finish off this unfinished edge, and it's going to wrap onto the first row of maille. And then a couple of hand stitches down there. And it is feeling pretty, it's feeling pretty good. I'm pretty excited. I feel like I'm gonna trim this off just a bit. I know we talked about that before, but just visually looking at it, I'm looking at it here in the camera, and I think that what was about there would be pretty happy. So that's gonna be an easy little trim. So a little bit of metal work and just some sewing. Let's get back over to it. The center point is about 14 inches, so I need a piece at least 28 inches long. I've got this little goat skin. You can cut a strip about 34 inches long, and it's on the belly. You can see here's the goat's spine. This is the belly. This is nice stretchy leather. On these fine leathers, I like to use a rotary cutter. It's a little trick you guys have seen me use before. Butt that up so it's nice and straight, then lay it on. I'm literally just gonna do a little rollover at the bottom. It's just a really fine thing, so I don't need a huge amount of leather. I'm just going to do a 2-inch wide strip. Now to put this on, I'm basically going to wrap it around. It's going to be just on the bottom of the chain, and then it's going to wrap up, and I'll stitch both sides. Basically what we'll end up getting is a little turned over piece like that, which will be the bottom edge. I'll put some glue on this. When it's mostly just tacky, then it's ready to go. It's been about 10 minutes. I drew a line on it in the center, so I'm going to fold it over to the center. And the contact cement at this point isn't really sticking to my fingers. There's a little tiny bit of residual. So I'm going to fold over the end, and I'm going to fold it again, and this is the pocket, just to one side. So I'm going to have 3 pieces of leather in the back and 1 in the front, and that's kind of what's going to capture the corner of the chain. So it's going to look like that. Now I'm using a glover's needle, so it's super sharp. It's like a little blade. So I've created a little stitch there, just on the back. I'll capture that down there, and I don't have a lot of space, so I'm just going to trim this. this is looking pretty good. I just want to add some aging to this chain. Now this is titanium, so it's not going to age at all. If I do any chemicals, it's pretty tough to age it up. So I'm just going to take some black wax and put it on here. And really the idea with this is I want to kind of roll the chain a little bit, because where I really want the aging is on that fabric behind it. I don't care if the chain itself is all that aged. I'm just creating a little bit of depth. Doing this kind of aging is a term I like to call movieing it up. And you can probably see the difference. A little bit of black in there, no black yet on this side. Now the front of this helm, the aging in here, the chemical aging gets quite aggressive here in the corners, and I'm just gonna blacken that a little bit because I don't want this helmet to look rusty, and sometimes the chemical aging does have a kind of a rusty look to it. This is a process of putting it on and taking it off to kind of get the desired effect. Basically I want the sheen of the metal to show through, but I want there to be some low spots on this as well. Usually pretty good to try to get like the wax in and around this chain and then give it a wipe back, because you won't be able to wipe off in between the chain quite as well, and it'll really look realistic, that aging. All those three-dimensional spots are great to hit like this. I do want to put some clear wax on this as well, so I am going to do that. Now the idea with this is I'm just going to get the whole thing covered in wax. And the reason for this is because the wax is actually the protection for this particular piece. The wax won't affect the chemical patina, but it will affect any other wax patina that you've put on. So it'll move around that black wax that we just added, and that's okay. Just again, layering this up to make sure we get all the surfaces covered. The wax will actually dry pretty hard. You don't want to leave big gobs anywhere. I want to clean out those edges and really just pretend like this is an antique piece of armor and that you are cleaning it up, and you would want to clean all those crevices and make sure that it's nice and clean for display.